What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Alex Cuesta Show. How's everybody doing out there on this Wednesday, October 7th, 2024, episode number 142? I'm Alex. Dave, you're still here. Why?
Yes.
Why do you keep coming back?
Well, I'm just around, and when I'm around, I'm just going to jump on.
You're not a square because you're always around. You can leave now if you want.
Yeah, I'm not happy about that one.
So how's everybody doing out there tonight? We appreciate everyone that's watching YouTube, X, Facebook, all that fun stuff. If you're watching on YouTube, smash that like button, subscribe, share the show with your friends. X, give us a repost, give us a follow. Facebook, give us a follow as well and a share over there. Anyone keeping score at home, this is the regular every Wednesday show. We've been doing a lot more shows lately, trying to go nightly and just going topical, but this is our normal Alex Cuesta show where we do more of an interview style where we bring somebody on. So just want to make sure that we're getting the switch there and we're not getting our wires twisted with what we're going to do. So if you want to follow us on the socials at the Alex Cuesta Show everywhere, and you'll see the logo with all the arrows and that fun jazz. So we're going to jump in right away. Last week's show, we had Stuttering Craig, host of Side Scrollers podcast. We had a really good time talking to him, talking gaming and things like that. We had him on a year and a half ago now, almost 2 years ago. And now he's grown Side Scrollers into one of the biggest, if not the biggest spots for gaming news and all the bullshit going on with gaming and DEI and the woke stuff going on. So we're pumped for what he's doing over there. And we're huge supporters. Go back and give that a listen. Before I bring in our guest, I'm going to give my preamble. The first thing I want to say is anybody watching, anyone that watches this later or listens or anything, please consider donating to a cause that is helping down with all the hurricane stuff. There's tragedies going on. Hurricane Helene has ravaged through the South. Asheville had that dam break, and they are absolutely screwed over there. And it looks like there's a few more storms on the way. I'm a big supporter of Mercury One with Glenn Beck and everything. They are always in there. Go to mercury1.org if you want to donate to them and help out. Anything you can give helps. I'm also going to ask for more people to fork out money because Moms for Liberty. I'm on that quest. Everyone that's watching this, everyone that's going to vote for Trump, if you all gave $1 to Moms for Liberty, if you all gave $1 to your favorite organization, that's $65 million minimum with voting wise that we would get for each of these organizations. So if you can give $1, give it. And lastly, the Epstein client list. I'm not going to go on a long preamble, but every show I do want to say, where the hell is it? Why haven't we seen it? And every single prominent or non-prominent host of a media space should be demanding that we see the Epstein client list and that all those people be prosecuted to the fullest. So without any further ado, I want to bring in this week's guest because we have a fun show and it is very important for me where I am in New York over here. But I feel like this also is important, and the things that our guest is going to talk about today is going to be very prominent and important for all kind of blue states with blue state governments and the shit that they're trying to pull with elections. So without further ado, let me bring him in. He is Erik Haight. He is the Dutchess County Republican Elections Commissioner. Did I say your last name right? Because I didn't even ask.
Yeah, Haight. That's so right.
There we go. What's going on, Erik? How you doing, man?
I'm doing great. How you doing, guys?
I'm doing well. I appreciate you coming on. Just for people keeping score at home, I've mentioned that I'm a part of my committee locally here. Me and Erik are on the same committee over here, the GOP committee over in our town. So he gets to deal with me at least like once every other month talking to me. So just hearing him speak, he's so knowledgeable about all the things going on with the elections and he's passionate about it. And I just want to bring him on because one of the things that we talk about all the time with this show is we talk about the federal stuff all the time. We've had Allison Esposito on. We want her to win and things like that. And we've had other people, Billy Prempa coming on. He has a huge election. He's trying to win in New Jersey to get into Congress. And those are important. But more important are shows that we do with Stefan Krakauer. We had Bill Reuter on last year. The local ones that are going to affect us more. And Erik is someone that is very much involved in what's going on in Albany, plus local stuff here. So I don't want to keep saying your job more than you do, but what does a elections commissioner really do? Why are you, an important cog to what goes on in the elections?
Well, Alex, first off, thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Dave, you as well, even though Alex doesn't speak very kindly of you whenever I see him.
Well, I mean, that's normal. If you were to say a nice thing, then there'd be a problem.
But
Eric, we might have to take this real quick. Hate breed, that might have to be like your new handle everywhere. That's awesome, Nate. All right. Sorry, Eric, go ahead.
No, it's okay. Listen, I tell people all the time, all the mail I get is technically hate mail.
I do like that. That's amazing.
I've been an elections commissioner since 2011. Wow. And every county, all 62 counties in New York, there's one Republican commissioner and one Democrat commissioner. And I think it's an important system that we have in New York. It's somewhat unique in our bipartisan fashion, but I think it's important. We administer elections. We administer all local, federal, state elections. The only elections we don't do are fire and school. And in our system, the checks and balances are key because we're fully transparent. Everything we do has the light of day shining on it. My counterpart, the Democrat commissioner, can't make a move without me. She can't. I can't make a move without her. From everything from spending money to making decisions as it relates to absentee ballots, polling sites, early voting hours, staffing levels, expenditures, budget, everything we do is together. And that's true from top down. So commissioners, deputy commissioners, machine coordinators, inspector coordinators, election specialists. Every single Republican has a counterpart, and every single one of us are tied to the hip to our counterparts. And I think that goes a long way with the public.
So I just want to, that has to be interesting, right? Because I'd imagine your relationship has to try to be a good one, but can also be contentious at times, right? Because you're obviously both trying to promote your own candidates. You're very involved in your own parties. You want to win your own election. How does that work when, you're sitting there and maybe Stefan has an attack ad or something like that, and you see each other the next day? Is there sometimes a look at each other like, what was that? Like, what are you guys doing over there? Or do you try not to get in there and let that kind of stuff get in the way?
Most of what we do is administerial in nature. Yeah. And at times it can be contentious because we come from very different worlds. Yeah. But we need to have a mutual respect. We need to have a good working relationship. You need to be able to communicate with your counterpart at every level, from commissioner, deputy commissioner, right on down to the entry level position. You have to have a working relationship, but you also have to be watching your counterpart closely. Not that I think 99% of the election officials in the country, and I know almost all of them in New York, would ever do anything nefarious. It's mostly quality control. Yeah. Data entry. There's the checks and balances are in place so that the public has confidence. Yep. It varies, everything from a typo on a voter registration card to a dispute over, where a polling site should be, or ballot access can sometimes be contentious if, a ballot, if a candidate does or does not deserve to be on a ballot. At times we do have to, seek judicial intervention. At times we do have to sue each other. And the important thing is that you don't take it personally. You're there to do a job. You're there to represent your party. I'm not just an elections commissioner. I'm a Republican elections commissioner. Yeah. And I'm there to do a job, and our staff is there to do a job, and we all know it. And like I said, at times it can be, the system is set up to be confrontational, but you still have a job to do. The public still demands it. Your oath of office demands it. And election day is coming, 35 days.
Ooh, very soon. And, very soon.
And we work very hard year round to make sure that election day can go as smooth as possible for all the voters.
And I do have to say, you are all the time in our meetings and things like that. You're as positive as can be. And, you're asking for election workers, but you always seem to have a positive outlook. Now, does that have to do with the fact that, you are working so closely with others that are like-minded. Like, even though she's different in terms of philosophy, she's like-minded in wanting to get the election run properly, right? And you guys probably both have the same goal of, I don't care what party is working the polls, like working the elections. Like, we need more bodies. Is that like kind of a unified mission that you guys share to really get out and get more election workers?
Yeah, I mean, the preference is for each side to appoint Republican election inspectors to work election day and early voting. The Democrats strive to appoint Democrat election inspectors. But push comes to shove, the job's got to get done. So if we have to hire somebody of no party affiliation or a registered conservative, or if I know a Democrat that I know will follow the rules, that follows the manual and is honest and has integrity, I have no problem hiring a Democrat to work as a Republican elections inspector, because the job has to get done.
Absolutely.
And like I said, I shouldn't even say almost every single person I've ever met in this business lately is interested in doing the right thing.
So is your position an elected position?
I am appointed by the county legislature.
Gotcha.
That's the final step. But the step before that is I am elected by the Dutchess County Republican Committee. And, so the legislature acts on the name that they receive every 2 years at a county convention.
And that just goes to show just, the work that you've done since you've been doing it since 2011. And I got to see you firsthand at my first Dutchess County, meeting that I went to this past year. And you are, a wealth of knowledge, and the way that you talk to all the volunteers and how, what we're doing in terms of getting around and the rules and things like that. How long did it take you to get into stride? 2011, it seems like forever ago now, right? What was that like, jumping into the position? And did you know the kind of gravity of your position? Because I don't think people realize just, the election commissioner, and we talk about election integrity consistently, and you are the cog that is one of the main cogs of election integrity. Did you realize how important it was then, and how much of a hot button issue it would freaking be? And 10 years later,
I knew the gravity of the position when I ran for the job in 2010. But when you get to do the job, you have a greater appreciation for it over time. I joined the Republican committee in 2002. Prior to that, I was volunteering for Republican campaigns, pounding lawn signs, handing out literature. And then in 2005, I ran for public office. I ran for the city council in Poughkeepsie, prevailed, but by only 5 votes. In the second ward of the city of Poughkeepsie, a heavily Democratic area, but I worked my tail off and did a lot of door-to-door. And then when I was defeated in 2007, I became, I got involved, re-involved as a party operative in the city of Poughkeepsie, and was the campaign chair for all the offices that were up in 2009. And we flipped the city council from Dem to Rep. And we had a Republican mayor, and essentially been volunteering ever since. And then
I remember being in college when that happened, because I went to Marist. And that was a big deal, being, I was a rare open conservative at Marist. There was a few of us, and, still, even though Marist has gotten much more liberal than it was then, it was a little more accepted. But when that happened, that was especially, off the heels of Obama. Right before that, it was kind of we were all kind of disheartened. I hated that day because there were people in the quads banging pots when he won, and I was like, I hate you all. But then that happened, and I'm like, there's some hope. The city doing that, and and Mayor Rollison ended up doing a fantastic job later and things like that with the things that he was doing, and the council did a great job. And obviously, with it goes back and forth and stuff, but that was pretty massive and kind of giving hope to a young kid. And at that point too, that kind of inspired me, which is funny, knowing that I didn't know you were there, but I volunteered for Rich Wager's campaign and John Foreman's campaign. and also interned for Nan Hayworth for like 5 minutes. But it was like that kind of got me going, and I was like, hey, let's keep going and let's try and keep do something there.
Yeah, and listen, I learned it from a public policy standpoint, as an elected official, as a party official, and now as an election administrator. I've seen all sides of it, and I absolutely get the gravity of it. And things have gotten more complicated, over the years. And we used to have a lever machine; it was mechanical. We didn't have, optical scanners and things of that nature. And now it's a very technical job, very technical, and we're very fortunate to have very smart people on staff. With the onset of all these changes that the New York State Legislature has forced down our throats over the years,
which we're going to talk about,
since they took over the majority.
Yeah.
The Republicans in the New York State Senate for a very long time were the firewall against a lot of this stuff that, the Democratic governor wanted to do and the Democratic Assembly wanted to do. And, when we lost that firewall, it was essentially a flood of so-called reforms that really, many of them are very expensive and don't really benefit the public to any great extent.
So I want you to kind of speak on some of the most important reforms, because I think also, like I said on top, like one of the things that I believe for a long time, and I'm from Jersey, so, I've been stuck in a blue state my whole life, same as you. And one of the things that I've noticed growing up, what happens in New York State, New York City, LA, and California trickles out. And then all the other blue states kind of take their lead from what those two are really doing. Again, being from Jersey, it all trickles down to us from New York, and then the rest of the Northeast corridor takes it. And California kind of really affects your Portland and stuff like that. And, your Washingtons, your Oregon. And so what are some of the main reforms that you have seen come down the pike that have had, a major impact on the elections?
Alex, are you able to hear me?
I'm able to hear you. Your camera went out. That's okay. You could keep going. We can hear you.
Right. So I think there have been so many reforms, hundreds. I think
pick a few. We don't have that long.
The largest and most profound one is obviously the onset of early voting.
Yes.
It is extremely expensive, and very few people utilize it. There's 9 days of early voting in New York, starting 10 days before Election Day. People claim to pretend to care about election workers, whether they be full-time or Election Day workers. Excuse me.
You're good.
However, it can't be true when you force people to work that many days, that many hours, and expect them to perform in a quality fashion.
And one of the things I feel that's always like the most offensive part with that is a lot of the times it's your seniors mostly that are volunteering to do this. And now we're asking our retired seniors to work 10 days straight when they have, been happily freaking retired. And now they have to work 10 days straight, long days on their feet, moving around, answering a lot of questions from people that, aren't knowing much. And a lot of them are going to come back and do it again on Election Day because they, unfortunately, they give most of their time, fortunately because they're doing it, but unfortunate that they don't have anybody else to help them.
It used to be we would come into Election Day knowing we had a long day ahead of us. New York is one of the longest election days where the polls are open from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m.
Yeah.
Election Day workers get there at 5. They leave at 9:30, 10 o'clock. It's a long day for $300.
Yeah.
But we used to come in on Election Day recharged, ready to go, rested.
Yeah.
Now we've just worked 10 straight days. And you're coming out on fumes on Election Day now, and then you're expected to work from 5 a.m. to 10 p.m. And it's a lot to ask, and it's not a lot of money. And the people that do it, God bless them, salt of the earth, patriots that truly just want to do a good job for the voters. And the small amount of people that utilize early voting compared to the cost, I think is a colossal waste of money. I think the strain on staff is immense. Frankly, it's inhumane to ask people to work that many days, that many hours in a row. And yes, is early voting convenient? Absolutely. Is it cost effective? Absolutely not.
But here's the thing that bothers me with the early voting. We already had a system set up. If you could not vote on election day, you requested an absentee ballot. If you couldn't make it, you requested an absentee ballot, and you could do it that way. Like I am, I'm gonna use early voting this year. I'm gonna be the inhumane animal, but I'm gonna be away on election day. But in the past, if I knew I was going to be away, I would get an absentee ballot so I could make sure that my ballot counted. Right? That's usually how it was done, Eric.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, and
why
now
was that reform changed? What was their reasoning for changing it?
To implement early voting?
Yeah.
Well, what they say and the truth are two very different things.
Let's get both.
They'll tell you that they implemented early voting to enhance participation and increase turnout.
Yeah.
All of the states that implemented early voting before New York did not see any increase in turnout. And it was a lie. And New York hasn't seen an increase in turnout either. Like I said, the only thing it has enhanced is the convenience. It has not increased turnout. Mm-hmm. And then as it relates to absentee voting, the New York State Constitution is clear. There's very limited reasons where you are eligible for an absentee ballot because we are an in-person voting state.
Yep.
So when they tried to amend the Constitution by referendum to make New York a no-excuse absentee voting state, it failed. Huge, by a landslide. So to get around the will of the voters, the Democrats in Albany decided to call something to initiate some legislation called early vote by mail, which is essentially no excuse absentee voting.
All it is. They are kings at the postmodern name games.
And it circumvented the will of the voters. And now, and the Republicans challenged it in court. But the Democrats have successfully rigged the courts, whether it be the appellate divisions or the Court of Appeals. What used to be a fair court is now a rigged court. And so at one time when there was a checks and balance, so to speak, on the legislature, and that being the court system, that is now gone. Hochul initially tried to put in a fair judge. The legislature said no, and she was forced to put in, a hack. And the Court of Appeals, which used to be a very prestigious court, a court loaded with judges that had integrity, most of them, now is just a joke. And so early vote by mail was deemed to be constitutional, even though we all know it isn't.
Mm-hmm. And, and I think part of the travesty is, and like you said, Governor Hochul actually tried to put in someone fair, which you won't hear anywhere, right? From any sort of media side, that she tried to do something decent, because all we know on our side is Kathy Hochul's terrible. She isn't great. She's not a very good governor, but just that little act. And it just goes to show that even if she wanted to be more of a fair governor, I don't know if she could with what's going on in Albany, that they are just so rampant and they are so far leaning left that they want all these crazy things. Now, one thing that I want you to inform the public, because I think if we have early voting, and especially as people, most of the people watching this are on the right, and if you are in New York, use it, right? It's there. If it's going to be there, if we're going to use our taxpayer money to have it freaking open, go use it to make sure that your vote gets in. Now, Eric, I didn't know that I can go to any voting site during early voting. I don't have to stick to a certain ward site. Is that correct?
For early voting, all of our early voting sites are equipped to handle every voter from every election district in the county. And so you can go wherever is more convenient for you. Now, on election day, you have to go to your assigned poll site. But during early voting, the 9 days, you can go to any site you want.
And and that's something that I didn't know, and I like politics. I'm involved in it. And that's part of the thing I think that hurts in general is I don't think enough people know enough about early voting, when it is, where to go. I think people are kind of nervous about early voting, and it's just they know more about election day. So they'd rather take the chance that they can get there on election day. And if they can't, they can't. So, I think at least there needs to be a better job about an outreach to our base. And I get it. We send out flyers and pamphlets and things like that. And most people just throw them in the trash, right? Like, I think that's just the nature of it. You get that little card. You're like, don't care. So have you guys put your heads together on how to get people more knowledge about early voting? Because it's there. We might as well try to use it.
Yeah, I think the campaigns are doing a much better job this year and last year. And actually, Lee Zeldin, when he ran for governor, did an excellent job at
fantastic
getting the word out that early voting is safe, early voting is secure, and you're not violating your principles as a conservative or as a Republican if you vote early.
And I think Lee was a big part in changing President Trump's mind about that, because Lee has been so strong in the Senate, and he's been a great ally to, the president and a lot of the good senators there, like Mike Lee and things like that. And so I think that he's done such a good job. And I'm, as much as I wanted him as governor, I'm still pumped he's in the federal government doing his thing.
Yeah. Lee really, changed the hearts and minds, of a lot of folks that were sour on early voting. And I understand it. I liked, before I was working all day on election day, I used to enjoy to vote on election day, but it's so convenient that I vote early as well, because frankly, I don't know what fire I'm going to be putting out wherever on election day. And I haven't missed an election since I was eligible to vote in 1994. But now that I'm actually working election day, it's very convenient to vote early, and it is secure, and it is safe. And once your ballot is inside the ballot box, there's nobody, a judge, can take that vote away. It is secure, it is safe, and listen, we put a lot of time, effort, and resources into early voting, and people should use it.
Definitely. And, and my plea to a lot of people, know who your local candidates are, because as for me here, the election that, Rob Rollison is running, and Stefan Krakauer, and even Allison Esposito, Allison's is going to be a little more high profile, but Stefan and Rob, your vote matters. And that's what I really try to get across. Maybe you're looking at it, we're Dutchess County, New York's probably going to, there's a chance it flips, but really it's probably going to go blue in the federal side. So people are often like, well, my vote doesn't count. And I want people to understand that now with early voting, your vote's guaranteed to count somewhere. Definitely it's going to be in. And number two, get in there for the local side, because the local is the best buffer that we have if there is a bad federal government, and especially in New York, where we have the county legislature as another buffer. So I stress to, number one, make Erik's job a little more worthwhile for those 10 days that he's going through hell. Yes. And number two, don't think that just because you're in a blue state or a blue area that your vote doesn't count. Locally, 50 votes can change a lot.
I've seen races come down to one vote.
Yeah.
I've seen races come down to a tie.
Yeah.
And we also have Greg Pulver up this year, Dutchess County Comptroller. And yes, are the electoral votes cast in New York? Absolutely. All electoral votes in New York are going to Harris.
Yes.
However, to your point, and it cannot be overstressed, local elections matter. There are local candidates on the ballot this year besides president. And even though we'll see at least 80% turnout this year, it's important that people vote in the odd years as well.
Absolutely.
And I would argue that your vote in the odd years has a much larger impact than it does in the even years. You should always vote.
Yes.
But it is extremely important to vote in the odd years as well.
Well, yeah, even for us here, because we have Sheriff Imperati. He came in one of those, right? He came one of those years, and he's a fantastic sheriff. And people need to realize just how important those types of positions are as well, because we have an amazing buffer here with the great sheriff. Something goes awry, he could deputize all of us, and it's like, all right, we don't have to do anything the federal government doesn't want. Our sheriff does it. And what do you have to say over there, Dave?
Well, I was going to say, while the federal government, obviously, it will affect your life, but a lot of times it's more indirectly affecting your life. It's not exactly a direct effect. While your local government is the direct, immediate effect on your life. That's something that you have much more of a say in, and they have much more of a say in your whole just daily life as well.
Definitely. So, Eric, what other reforms? So obviously early voting has had a major impact. And I guess maybe whether or not it has a major impact, probably not on the voting side, but on the money side, right? Because if that keeps going on, our taxes keep on funding it. So they're probably going to ask for more as it gets more expensive, right? What other reforms have you seen that have been majorly effective in terms of voting?
Well, besides early voting, besides no excuse absentee voting, the latest so-called reform that is extremely damaging is the even year election bill.
Yeah.
Where they're shifting many elections in New York from the odd years to the even years.
Now, to the layman, why is that a big deal? Because, someone might be listening going, what's the difference? It's a year, like pick your year and get it done. Why is that effective, and why are the Democrats doing it?
Well, the Democrats in the legislature and the bill sponsors lied to everyone and said that it was a cost savings initiative. Complete bullshit.
Surprise.
Yeah.
The shifting contests from odd years to even years will actually cost the state of New York and all the taxpayers more money. So every election, every contest that is not protected by the state constitution, the state legislature has moved to the even year. And they have done it. They have done it because they know there's more turnout in gubernatorial and presidential years.
Yep.
And they know, based on the enrollment in many of the counties in New York, that Republicans that are competitive in odd years during lower turnout years will get crushed in the even years. And when this even year bill came out, I nicknamed it the Republican extinction bill, because in places where a purple county like ours, or a purple town like ours, we're simply not competitive in the even years because of the turnout, because of the uninformed voters that come out to vote for governor, or that come out to vote for Congress, that come out to vote for president, that will vote party line, Democrat across the way, and take out a highway superintendent that is not political, has no stance on abortion. He or she is just trying to fill potholes and clear snow off the roads. And what's going to happen is, once this is fully implemented over the next couple of years, is local elected officials are going to lose their voice. We're going to get drowned out by the national scene, the statewide scene, because the let's face it, local candidates don't have the resources to buy the ads, whether it be digital or radio or TV. And when you're drowned out by the presidential race, the gubernatorial race, the congressional race, you lose your voice.
Yep.
And in a very cynical way, the Democrats in the state legislature just don't give a shit. They don't care that it's going to cost more money. Yep. They don't care that the equipment that we own can't handle a ballot that is physically longer than 22 inches.
Yep. Nope, they don't care.
And so when there's that many contests on a ballot and a 22-inch ballot doesn't work anymore, it's unknown to all of us that run elections whether the equipment we have is sufficient enough to handle the contests that we are going to have to put on this ballot.
Now, is that something that could be brought up in a lawsuit? Like, hey, we can't legally do, like, our paper isn't big enough, and now you're asking us to do something that's possibly going to make the election invalid, and now we're not. Because here's the thing, I think they want to sow chaos in the elections, right? That's been their goal for a long time. Is that anything you could bring up legally there? Sorry, Dave.
No, you're good.
No, there are 8 counties and several towns that have sued the state on constitutional grounds that the even year election bill is not kosher, because on a variety of reasons. It's currently that it's pending, that litigation. It's in Onondaga County. That's where the cases have been consolidated to. But as I referenced earlier, even if the Republicans prevail at the trial court level and state Supreme Court, they've rigged the appellate divisions and the Court of Appeals to the point where, it's almost it's a losing battle. they've made it so that it's almost impossible, so that the rule of law can prevail in court.
So wild.
Yeah, and I was going to say, and like you said, not only does it even years drown out people locally that don't have the funds in order to actually put ads out, but when you have a ballot that big and someone's just going to come in and vote for their one side, they're just going to go down ballot. So since you're going to have more Dem presence in the even years, they're most likely just going to go down ballot and pick every single local Democrat as well. So that is also probably a big factor. I'm assuming a big factor. You could tell me if I'm wrong.
No, that's the goal.
Yeah.
So where is this? Like, I've heard it from you, obviously, in the meetings and things like that. But why am I not hearing more of this? Why aren't the Republicans screaming about this? Why are not the candidates right now making this a big deal? Why are not the current sitting individuals making this a bigger deal and trying to get some money, trying to figure out someone to get something to run ads on this? Because one thing the Democrats are good at doing is finding money to get ads to make things a big deal, whether or not they truly are. Do we have any machine in the state apparatus that is willing to do something like this?
Well, I have been screaming from the mountaintops for a long time about that. I think right now candidates are correctly focused on election day. The state Republican committee, is focused on, I think, November 5th. The counties and the towns that have taken the lead on the litigation are the ones that are paying for it now, and these are all Republican controlled counties mostly with Republican county executives and Republican legislatures that have provided the funding. But these are taxpayer dollars that are going towards this litigation to fight the state government on this huge power grab.
So would it be a big boon if we can get someone private? Like, how would the public help this? Because I feel like, there needs to be also a public outcry, because it's easy when we have county executives and local officials, they can get shrugged aside easily by Albany, right? Like, that's not a difficult thing. We're going to fight the battle. We're going to do what we have to do, but ultimately they have all the power. What in your eyes would help move this ball?
Honestly, we need to elect Republican judges, and we need to make sure that Republican county executives and Republican legislators get reelected, because they're the tip of the spear.
Okay.
And Republican judges are fair. They're just fair. And I've of course over the years have had bad decisions or decisions that I've disagreed with from Republican judges, but I've always felt as though I've been treated fairly by Republican judges. I can't say that's the same with Democratic judges.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is we need to ratchet up the name recognition of some of these judges, because, like, again, I think the big issue is a lot of these campaigns and things like that is decided by so few votes because it is hard to get those names out, right? But judge is not a sexy thing to vote on. County executive is a little more sexy, right? Because they're basically, the rules are a little different, but a lot of people look at them as like a small governor of their area. So they're a little more sexy, so that's a little easier. But I feel like on the ground, and, obviously you do a great job bringing knowledge to all of us in the committee, but on the ground, I think we all need to do a better job of making those names more sexy and making them more popular. Would that be something that we need to do, Eric, as a group?
Listen, the more that we can talk up our Republican judges that do a fantastic job, get their name recognition up, make sure people vote their entire ballot, not skip over the judicial races.
Yes.
And take a look at the ballot and be careful that you're not voting for a Democrat accidentally.
Yeah.
Very often for Supreme Court, Republican Party leaders will cross endorse a Democrat, or worse, the Conservative Party will cross endorse a Democrat, and then the Republicans are left without the conservative line because of, frankly, corruption.
Yeah.
Definitely. I feel like we need to again, literature is thrown away, but I feel like right now, like, and I'm a broken record with this type of stuff, but I feel like we're behind the eight ball a lot on social media, as a full on party where, a lot of people age demographics, they use Facebook, the older group. If we can make Facebook bigger, like they would know more and have more knowledge. And then with the younger group, it would be TikTok and Instagram and things like that. So, has there been talk about trying to integrate more of that into not just the campaign level, but also at the level of the workers?
You're referencing election day workers?
Not even just election day, but like, committees and things like that, like trying to really get them involved.
Most of these organizations are 100% volunteer.
Yes.
So there's a concerted effort, obviously, to tap the power of social media, but a lot of these volunteers just don't know how. They understand that it's important. They just don't know how to tap into the power of it.
Mm-hmm. And it makes sense because, like, again, a lot of the volunteers are people that are, not in my age demographic or yours, Eric. Like they're a little bit older, so it's less knowledge. They didn't really grow up with the social media and things like that. So it does become a little more difficult. So, Dave, you're snickering over there.
You said the social media, so it feels like
the interwebs.
Yeah, you're really trying to connect to them.
I am. I'm trying to speak their level. Shut up, Dave. So, outside of the doom and gloom, Eric, is there any positive that we are looking at right now in terms of election or potential reform coming down the pipe? What are our Republicans doing in the Assembly and the Senate that could possibly be a buffer or something positive for us at the election? Or are we just really fighting an uphill battle right now?
It is an uphill battle. Republicans in the New York State Assembly do a great job. Republicans in the state Senate do a great job. It's where good ideas go to die. Unless you can get a Democrat to sponsor your bill, it's not going anywhere. And 9 times out of 10, these folks have to give away their good ideas to Democrats, let them take the credit, stay quiet so that it passes. The governor will sign it just so that something good happens. And that's a shame.
Yeah.
I'll say this. You want to know something positive that's going on?
Yep.
I don't know a single Republican in the Senate, in the Assembly, that has given up. Even though it may be a futile effort. Every single one of these folks fight, and they fight hard. Knowing we're going to get our asses whipped, they still fight hard. And it's important. It's important because, if we give up and they're not held accountable and they're not intended to be kept honest, well, then, we might as well just move to Russia, or China.
Yeah, you're right.
Let's face it. I mean,
I'll go to Poland. Poland's pretty based recently, so.
Over the years, the Democrats in the legislature and the governors, whether it be Cuomo or Hochul or whomever, they have dismantled, all the protections, many of the protections that we have.
Yeah.
They've made it easier to commit voter fraud.
Yep.
They've made it easier to steal elections. And, one of the reforms, which is opening absentee ballots before Election Day, even though we don't display results before Election Day, but we open absentees before Election Day. Absentee fraud that I've uncovered in the past in 2011, when I first became commissioner, would be impossible today. My first counterpart, Fran Knapp, she was stealing votes and absentee ballots from elderly people.
Wow.
And I caught her, but I would not have caught her under today's rules. Under the paradigm that we have today, it would have been impossible to expose her scam. And that was one of the motions we made before the court when we tried to fight this early canvass of the absentee ballots. I get people want to have their results on election night. I get that. but there's a process. And if you're not going to vote in person, we need to be able to verify that you're qualified to vote by absentee. And the Democrats have successfully dismantled that process to the point where the courts no longer have jurisdiction to oversee the process of absentee ballots.
That's incredible.
Yeah, and real quick, Nate brings this up, and it's actually going to transition to what I want to ask you. California blood in Arizona too, gates of mortar are wide open, which is terrifying. But in states like Arizona, and I think it was Colorado, I can't necessarily remember right now, but apparently, they found people without a citizenship on the voting records. How does that happen? Like, is that just a coding error? Is that a clerical error? Is that something that is consciously an oversight? How exactly does that happen? And have you ever seen that? And is it easy to strike off or anything like that?
So when you register to vote in New York, and I'm sure it's true in many other states, you're on your honor. If you check the box that you're a U.S. citizen, there is no verification of that at all.
And, we heard something like that. I heard a story today on, I think it was Pat Gray Unleashed on The Blaze. And there was this, I don't know where it was from, but it was, an illegal immigrant. He's been here for 40 years. He never voted, and he got an absentee ballot. And he brought it, and he's like, hey, I can't vote. Which, good on him.
Honest guy. Honestly.
Good on him. He's the type of illegal immigrant. I'm like, you could stay. Like, you're at least like chill. Like, but it's like, he like brought it up to the attention of the media and was like, I can't vote, and I got sent this. Something is wrong. So, it's crazy that is not a check. And obviously in New York State, we are never going to get voter ID to be a thing, which would probably solve a lot of that, right, Eric?
Insane statement. Such an insane statement.
It is.
So in New York, we don't send absentee ballots to people that haven't requested them.
Yeah. Just thank God for now.
Right. Colorado is one of those states where you automatically get an absentee ballot. It's a vote by mail state.
I think Washington too. I think they do it as well. Washington State.
And they're equipped to do that, though. They spent years cleaning up their voter rolls to the point where they could be equipped to have a vote by mail state where there are no poll sites. Everyone votes by mail, but that's how they're built. That's their infrastructure. Most of the states are not like that. If somebody wanted to, if someone that was here illegally or on a visa or green card that was not a citizen wanted to register to vote and they wanted to check the box and say yes, they could do that. They'd be committing a felony, but it would be extremely difficult to catch that person.
I mean, they already committed a crime by walking over that border and coming over here anyway. I don't think they really care about committing crimes very much. Like, they're already cool with it. And, we've had an influx in New York, right? What was it at the beginning of the Biden-Harris administration? It was known that they were flying immigrants to Westchester Airport, illegal immigrants. So it's like we already have individuals that if they want to choose to vote, which, with everything that the leftists promise, I wouldn't be surprised if they're voting, right? Like, hell, I would vote for them because they're going to give me free shit. Like, they're going to give me a $4,000 Visa gift card and a hotel to stay in and a job and a work visa and amnesty. Like, they give them all these reasons, but at the injury of us, the citizens that work hard and are paying our taxes. So, Eric, you're only bringing us doom and gloom today.
Well, listen, I apologize.
It's not your fault. You don't need to apologize.
No, I blame you.
As it relates to elections, there's not a whole hell of a lot that comes out of Albany that is good.
Yeah.
But the silver lining is we do have a fantastic infrastructure of Republican volunteers, Republican candidates, Republican elected officials, and Republican commissioners and their staffs that fight the good fight every single day. We have fair elections in New York. We have accurate elections in New York. I can swear on a stack of Bibles that there's no cheating going on in New York State. And certainly not with any knowledge of any elections commissioner, either Republican or Democrat. And we have good staffs. We have great workers. And do people make mistakes? Yes. But when you make a mistake of the mind versus a mistake of the brain, or I'm sorry, of the heart, two very different things.
Absolutely.
And very rarely do we come across a situation where there's a mistake of the heart. Honest mistakes occur, but to a point that you made earlier, the state legislature, I think, is attempting to legislate into a situation where we fail, because their end game, I believe, is to break down the bipartisan structure of the Board of Elections to the point where there is not a checks and balance, to the point where there's not a Republican and a Democrat in tandem doing all election-related tasks, to the point where it's one-party rule, where there's a situation where only Democrats run elections. And I think they do so at their own peril. And they're so cynical and they're so power hungry that they view Republican elections commissioners as a nuisance. They want to get rid of us. They don't know how to do it yet, but they have determined that if they throw so much shit at us that we can't handle it, that we fail, that they say, oh, see, they can't handle it. So, let's take over. Let's have the Secretary of State, who's appointed by the governor, take over elections in New York State. And guess what? Your transparency, your checks and balances, and the integrity of the system essentially dissolves.
Absolutely. So, it's a necessary buffer. Now, Erik, I would like to make this a yearly occurrence where we bring you on, because there's elections every year. People don't know that. There are elections every single year that go down. Your job is never done, Erik. You are working 24/7 all the time to make sure that everything's in order. There is some sort of election every year, basically, right, Erik?
Absolutely.
So
even when they do this even year bill, when they initiate that, we're still running elections in the odd years, but they want to bullshit people into thinking that there's cost savings into it.
Yep.
So I would like to make this a yearly thing where we bring you back at least some week in October to talk about upcoming elections, any reforms that have been made, any positive strides that have been made. And hopefully as we do this yearly, we start to chip away here in New York, and it eventually becomes a more peachy conversation and not one where it's like the Democrats are just doing shit to make our lives miserable.
Listen, we got to fight. We got to fight.
Fight, right?
I'm not always Mr. Popular.
Okay.
Very often, I'm made out to be the boogeyman by the Democrats, and the court system thinks that I'm wasting their time with frivolous lawsuits. But you have to fight, because if you give up, then what's the point?
And also, it is in the game of politics, your record is everything, right? So it will always go down that Erik Haight fought, right? That you did take him to court, that you were doing everything in your power. And especially as the politicians, as they're sitting there in the Assembly and the Senate, taking these bills to the floor, getting them into committee, having it on the record that they are trying. Number one, it'll help them get reelected. And number two, it shows that they are trying to do something. They are fighting. And, I'm hoping that, now as I'm getting more involved, and I would love to, Erik, if we could ever set up having any of the, the judges that are running, we would love to have them on the show.
Yep.
We would love to bring them on. Our audience is small, but we can reach wide if we want to, if we really push together and we get those episodes really out there. Any candidates in New York that are running as a Republican, we would love to have them on the show, because I feel like this is one small way that we can get this out. I like getting your voice out there, because I feel like you're an important part that people don't know about and that people need to know about what election commissioners do. Because again, you're also a wealth of knowledge.
Most people probably don't even know an election commissioner is a thing.
Exactly. And if there's any questions and things like that about elections, you or even your counterpart are the people to go to. Am I correct?
Agreed.
So I feel what you do is incredibly important. Now, in terms of election workers, if they want to help, how do they reach out? What do they do?
They can call the Dutchess County Board of Elections. They can call and if your listeners are from other counties, of course, they need to call their local Board of Elections.
Yes.
And say they want to work on Election Day. And we will hire them. We will train them and we will pay them. And right before Christmas, they will get a check which will help significantly with buying presents for those little rugrats. And each county pays a little different, but every county needs elections inspectors. And whether it's early voting or election day or a result courier or a voting machine technician, we need people. It's so hard to find people to work, especially post-COVID. Yeah. So if you can take off on election day, or if you're retired, we want you. Doesn't matter what party you are, or no party. Come on in.
So when does what are the dates of early voting, and how can people look up where to vote? You obviously said any center, but some people have no idea where to go. I mean, I think that's part of the battle, that people are too lazy to look things up. But if they want to, when is early voting exactly, and where can they go to figure out where to vote?
So early voting starts October 26th, goes to November 3rd.
Okay.
Election day is November 5th. Every county board of elections has a website like you're displaying right now. Our early voting sites are there. Our election day sites are there. You can also access the state board of elections website. They have every polling location in the state.
Okay.
New York City, etc. Our websites vary in quality. I like to think ours is one of the better ones. The state board has a great website too.
Yeah.
Or if you don't have access to the internet, you can call every board of elections. A human being will answer, and we will look you up in our system and tell you exactly where you can vote on election day if you want, or let you know the closest early voting site is to your house or your job, so that you can exercise your right to vote. I love it when people vote. Love it.
Definitely.
Don't care your party affiliation. Don't care how you vote. Prefer you vote Republican, but we put so much time, effort, and money into getting ready for election day that I just want everyone that's eligible and qualified to exercise their right.
So I'll be that guy that piece of jerk. I do care how you vote. You're going to come out and vote Democrat. Don't do it. I'm that guy. If you're going to vote Republican, bring 9 of you, okay, each. I will be that guy because I am a podcast host and I am not in an official position like Erik, so I can be that guy and just say, please, if you're voting Democrat, don't. But Erik, thank you a ton for coming on. You're an absolute wealth of knowledge, like I said, yes. And you know what's going on. You are dealing with this every day. You're doing yeoman's work, doing battles that are behind the scenes, which I think also we need to shine more light on. So if there is a battle that you are fighting that the public needs to know, send it my way. Give me a few notes on it, and I will shine a light. If there's a reform that the Assembly or the Senate's trying to push through that maybe we have a chance at blocking, if enough support happens or enough public discourse occurs, again, we're small, but small can also be mighty in these types of things. So let me know. We will put out a blurb on the show. I don't care who my guest is. And we will make sure that we try to do our small part to fight.
Mm-hmm. I'll keep you in the loop, Alex, on that for sure. Yeah, and Dave. And I fought the good fight for a long time on the polling sites on college campuses. I lost that fight. It's now state law.
That's insane.
And it's still a disgrace. But all you can do is fight the good fight, and when you lose, you comply. Yeah. Because as Republicans, we follow the rules.
And not even as Republicans, as Americans, you follow the rules. You fight, you battle. When you lose, you follow whatever rule it is. You shake hands and say, I'll get you next time. I will win the next fight. We'll see.
That's right.
And that's just the way it's supposed to be. And that's how we're going to do it. But here's the thing, Erik, we're going to get more of us to activate, and we're going to start winning, because you know something, now that I'm an adult, obviously I'm an adult, I'm an old ass man now, but
yeah, you're old.
I am old. Shut up, Dave. But we got to get more people, young people with kids that are conservative, not just sitting there and going, maybe I'll vote. actually getting off their ass and joining a committee, volunteering for it.
Hell, if your taxes are going to go to early voting, you might as well use it.
Go vote. Go work a poll. Go. Even if you could take one of those days, that's huge. So, if you can give 1 out of the 10 days, and that's fine. Go do it. Please help if you can. Again, if you're in a different county, go find out how you can help there. Contact your election commissioner. Hell, contact Erik, and he will direct you to your election commissioner, because I'm pretty sure he would love to hear from you, to just be like, great, let's get you to the right person.
Absolutely. My colleagues in New York State are wonderful, both sides of the aisle, and anyone I can direct to the correct board of elections, happy to help.
So once again, he is Erik Haight. He is the Dutchess County Republican Elections Commissioner, but he is so much more. He's battling, he's fighting. What he's trying to do is not just for Dutchess County. It's for New York State. It's for conservatives. It's for Republicans. It's for doing the right damn thing. If you want to find him on Instagram, at Erik Haight, EirkHaight. And you can find us everywhere on the socials at The Alex Cuesta Show. We appreciate everyone that watched. If you watched on YouTube, smash the like button, subscribe, all that good stuff. If you watched on X, give us a repost and everything, and Facebook a follow. Dave, what are you snickering about there?
Yeah, Nate's last comment.
What did Nate say?
He'll work a poll, huh?
You know what, Nate? However you have to get out and do it, whatever gets you to go, if you're thinking that you're just going to work a poll, you can go Chippendales it up, Nate. You do whatever you got to do, okay? All right, so everyone, we appreciate you watching. Dave and I will be back in a few minutes to go do our secondary show. Erik may be joining us. He might be tired of us. I don't know. But we will see everyone then. Thank you so much for watching. So long, everybody.